Welcome to Raaonline. Today's session is about the subclavian artery. The subclavian artery is a paired blood vessel that provides blood supply to the upper limbs as well as the parts of the neck and brain. Both subclavian artery, that is the right and the left subclavian artery, are located on the root of the neck, a region that acts as a channel for neurovascular structures. Now we will see what is the origin of the subclavian artery. The right subclavian artery, it is a branch of the brachiocephalic trunk and it begins behind the right sternoclavicular joint. If you look here in this picture, the right subclavian artery is a branch of the brachiocephalic trunk, whereas the left subclavian artery is a direct branch of arch of aorta in the thorax. Look at this picture. This is the arch of the aorta and this is the ascending aorta and this is the descending aorta. So, this is a brachiocephalic artery. From the brachiocephalic artery, you have the right subclavian artery. So, the right subclavian artery origin is from the branch of a brachiocephalic, whereas the left subclavian, this is the left subclavian artery, is a direct branch from the arch of the aorta. This is the difference between the origin of the right and the left subclavian artery, which you should always remember. Now we know about the course of the subclavian arteries. Each artery undergoes a curved course with upwards convexity. If you see the artery, each artery undergoes a curved course with an upward convexity and it extends from the sternoclavicular joint to the outer border of the first rib. So, it extends from the sternoclavicular joint to the outer border of the, this is the first rib. So, outer border of the first rib and where it enters through the axilla and it continues as an axillary artery. So, the subclavian artery, after it crosses the border of the first rib, outer border of the first rib, it continues as a axillary artery in the axilla. So, each artery arches over the cervical pleura and apex of the lung. This is the course of the subclavian artery. Now we have seen the course. Now we will see what are the branches of the subclavian artery. Before that, if you look at this picture, this subclavian artery as it enters into the axilla, continues axillary artery, then continues as a brachial artery. Then here the brachial artery divides into the radial artery and the ulnar artery and they enter into the palmar arches and the digital arches. Okay. So, this picture shows that the subclavian artery is a main artery of the upper limb and also it gives branches to the brain and the neck. Now, we will see what are the parts of the subclavian artery. The subclavian artery consists of three parts, first part, second part and the third part. So, which is a key muscle that divides the subclavian artery into three parts, that is the scalenus. This is the scalenus anterior muscle. So, the first part, this is the first part. So, the first part is the part which arises from the origin to the, this is the medial border of the scalenus anterior muscle. So, this is the first part of the subclavian artery. So, the first part from where to where? From the origin of the artery to the medial border of the scalenus anterior. Now, what is the second part? The second part is located behind the scalenus anterior muscle. So, the behind the scalenus anterior muscle is the part is the second part. So, this will be the second part. What is the third part? Third part is from the lateral border. This is the lateral border of the scalenus anterior to the outer border of the first rib. So, this is the third part. If you look at this picture, this side, you can see the first part, the second part and the third part. Okay. So, after that what happens? It continues, it crosses the outer border of the first rib and continues as an axillary artery. So, these are the three parts of the subclavian artery, first part, second part and the third part. Now, we will see what are the branches of the subclavian artery. The first part of the subclavian artery, as I said, first part is from the origin to the medial border of the scalenus anterior muscle. So, we will see what are the branches that is given by the first part of the subclavian artery. First is the vertebral artery, internal thoracic artery, thyrocervical trunk and the costocervical trunk on the left side. Okay. The second part which lies behind the scalenus anterior muscle, it gives a costocervical trunk on the right side. And third part is the part from the lateral border of the scalenus anterior muscle to the outer border of the first rib. It gives only one branch, which is the dorsal scapular artery. So, the first part we have the vertebral artery, internal thoracic artery and the thyrocervical trunk and costocervical trunk on the left side. Second part, subclavian artery. Second part of subclavian artery gives the costocervical trunk on the right side. The third part of the subclavian artery give rise to only one artery, that is known as the dorsal scapular artery.